Welcome to Kelverion Talks, where we discuss all aspects of IT automation, share our experience, and answer your questions. Today on Kelverion Talks, we're going to discuss IT automation and AI. I'm your host, Jamie Lennox. I have extensive experience on a wide range of IT areas, which gives me a unique perspective when analyzing situations. I tend to go and overanalyze, but it helps me seek answers to difficult out-of-the-box questions while collaborating with a wide network of experts. In this session, I have my colleague Richard Catley joining me. He also has extensive experience in a broad range of IT areas with a high concentration in IT automation, and I'm looking forward to digging into this subject to see what we can uncover. Welcome, Rich.
Hi, Jamie. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Always fun to collaborate and see what we can find. So, today,
Indeed.
when we're talking about IT automation and AI, I thought we would kind of start back a little bit about why we ever kind of approach this subject and what we're looking to show people and help explain, and how things change and where we're going to see things moving in the future, and how they can work together. So,
Excellent.
with that being said, if we go back, 6 months ago, you and I kept talking, and we noticed that people were kind of getting a little bit confused about IT automation and AI, and right?
It definitely seemed to be quite a common theme that kept cropping up in our conversations with customers and internally as well. So yeah.
So with that, you and I had the bright idea to kind of set out and start to differentiate the two and break it down and see what it is. And as always, we come at it from different angles and have some interesting perspectives, but we're trying to basically define the functions and the roles and where they're similar and where they're different. And then I ended up going to New York for Experts Live, and that's where I really saw things and kind of had a light bulb moment, and everything just was like, well, now I understand why everybody's so confused, because they're using the same terminology between designing a runbook or creating an agent. Yeah.
Exactly that. The agentic approach and all of the actions and doing things. I guess it's just a language thing, isn't it? The words naturally get reused, but the crossover definitely felt like it was muddying the waters. Yeah. So not just us. that was the nice reassurance that came from that. So our confusion seemed to be broad, and hopefully we can provide some insights and reduce some of that confusion for people today.
Exactly. That would be amazing. I'm interested to hear, your take on it, as well as, give some feedback about what I've found and kind of where we're looking to take this. Obviously, this isn't, a one-time discussion. We're going to have an ongoing learning process as things continue to evolve and change. But I think if we start at the beginning and give them all a good idea, then that makes it easier to follow, where it's going and to look forward. So basically, after I came back from New York, I sat down and started thinking, I need to write a blog, and it might end up being a series of blogs, and with that, starting off with defining what the two are and how they're different. And the initial summary, if you will, that I came up with, was that IT automation is obviously a process that's repeated over and over again with the exact same steps in the exact same fashion, and there is no real analyzing thing that changes it, because it's doing the same repeated steps. It's not trying to interpret it.
The analysis is up front, isn't it? As a person that builds runbooks, it's on me to sit down and figure that out, that path, and really then you're hoping that automation brings repeatability and consistency to the table. Those are the
Right, right.
yeah,
Kind of takes the human error factor out of it as well, which is
yep,
also, I think, important. And some of the human complacency that can be involved. We start to do the same thing over and over again and we get complacent, and then next thing
yeah.
you know, it's one word answers or things like that, and it all kind of impacts the same thing. So when we're talking about this, I'm just looking at it saying, how can we make this, different, right? What is the difference? And then when you think about AI to me is the new analyst. It's what actually goes out and tries to look at a set of data, and in order for it to be valid or accurate, I think it needs to be a set of data that pertains to your specific needs.
Right. So when you say your specific, do you mean like it understands about your enterprise, or do you mean something else? Is it like, oh, you've got a new guy in the help desk and he's got answers to all the questions, but he doesn't know anything about your processes and procedures, so he's a bit of a wild cannon? Or is that where you're
It's a
going?
little bit of both. It's a little bit of both, actually,
Okay.
because it needs to, if it's specific to your environment, then it knows how to narrow things down more effectively and
Right.
knows what's appropriate. And at the same time, if you've got people that are new, it can help guide them to the methodology and the processes and procedures that you use in your environment. But it all requires that particular historical data, if you will.
Okay. I think I see where you're going now. So what you're saying is that a typical AI large language model dealing with the generic stuff could be a loose cannon because it doesn't know about your stuff and follow your way of doing it and your procedures. But if that
Correct.
data that feeds into it is already tuned, is already focused on your world, then that helps. That is that right?
Very much so. I kind of equate it to, doing a Google search. If you don't put in the right keywords and you don't have the right, framework around your question, you're going to get a very broad answer. And if you say, where's the best, Italian restaurant? It could send you anywhere in the world. Meanwhile, you're living in podunk nowhere and you want the best one within 5 miles of you. Well, you didn't give it that criteria, so it doesn't know that. So it's going off what you asked. And I think AI
Right.
can very much be that similar situation. If you don't use the right set of data, you're going to get back some answers that you may not want to apply
I
or
find
don't
with
apply to
AI,
your
there's
environment.
it's always really agreeable. It's always really, you get that really helpful response, and if you ask it something that might be a bit daft, it'll still give you a really positive spin on it. So there's definitely it's kind of that dealing with the salesperson kind of way of like just treading warily as you're going around those answers. But yeah, in the days of a Google search, you got 10,000 results, didn't you? And if you
Hmm.
didn't see the answer in the first 3 pages, you're like, oh, I'll go back and do that again. But I guess because it's presenting something as oh, this is the answer, you don't have to, you're not doing that sorting of the wheat from the chaff anymore. So
Well, that
mm,
refinement tends to not be involved anymore because it's being automated in AI.
refinement's a great word for that. I like that.
Yeah, yeah, and you need to continue to look at it from that point of view, and that's where I think the two between IT automation and AI, they can work together in a complementary fashion
Okay,
where, you know, you need to start to decide which comes first, the chicken or the egg. And in
right.
this case, personally, my personal beliefs are that if you start with IT automation and you create that data set of consistent procedural activities, responses, you know, completing all of the information, providing it all back, whether it's error codes, whether it's steps to resolve, whether it's whatever that was
Yeah.
involved in the process, and you have that complete scene, then AI can go back and analyze all of that and say, okay, you're doing this and you're fixing these issues, but I'm seeing
Right.
this as a trend, or I'm seeing this
Right.
as something that may be
So that
higher level
so that's
to
kind
look
of
at.
your refinement piece coming in, and what you've
Right.
described, I would say, is already kind of automation best practice, right?
Right.
The having the logging, breaking things down into a modular way, keeping track of the individual steps.
Right.
It's all repeated and consistent, but it does lack that oh, now is the right time, the decision making process. So taking that data that comes out of the automation, so going back and, if you're dealing with service desk tickets or catalog requests or those other things,
Mhm.
understanding that automation may have delivered it, but then the same end user placed two more catalog requests as soon as each one was finished, would help you to judge that, oh, actually, there's an opportunity here for a wider process, maybe, or a different way to handle the tickets. As you say, something, oh, it's broken again. It's like, well,
Right.
we haven't really fixed this, right? All we're doing is sticking plastering it.
Right. Those
I
band-aid
see
approaches. Yeah.
that I think you said complementary approach. I think that
Hmm.
makes a lot of sense. I think each each one on their own is lacking something, isn't it? And they yeah, complementary is the perfect word. The total is greater than the sum of the individual parts, isn't it? When you've got consistency and reliability being delivered, being driven by an intelligent analytical entity. Um,
Hmm.
and that might, that's the same today as it might be with a fourth line engineer, right? They
Right.
are going through the analysis and the decision
Hmm.
making process, but they're typically a limited resource, right? You don't have
Right.
them they're not ten a penny, literally. Um, so
Correct.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So if we think about AI being the analyst and IT automation being the engine that delivers the actual task, that's kind of where we saw the original defining break. In the beginning of our journey when we started to try to put it
Yeah.
down into terms that we could explain. And as things move forward, of course, you've got agentic AI now that's out there and some other things that have been moving faster and exponentially with anything in
Hmm.
IT always does. So now it's curious to see within 6 months of us starting this, down this journey and this path and breaking it down, how much it's changed and kind of where it's
Mm,
going.
yeah.
Uh, the lines are really going to be blurred. And people are going to have to start, I think, using more of a guardrail system, if you will, some
Right.
sort of checks and balance as to what AI comes back with. Because, like you said, it puts such a positive spin on everything. It's like, oh, well, it
Mm.
has to be right. It's like we used to say, oh, well, it's on the internet. It's got to be true. And that whole mentality, well, we've learned since then that's not exactly the case. And I think it's going to be the same thing with some of the responses that we get back from AI. So we're going to have to find a way to use some checks and balances and guardrails and points to say, is this true? And even if it is it best for our environment? And I think
It's really
that's where,
flattering, isn't it?
yeah.
When you provide a prompt and it comes back and says that's a great idea and gives you
Hmm.
all of the reasons why why you were on the right lines, and you know it was a smart prompt in the first place. It's very easy to get to be flattered and suckered into the following that rabbit hole for a long way with that.
Right.
And I think, yeah, the challenging it and saying, well, what are the weaknesses in this idea? What are the problems with these things is definitely a good way to avoid some of that flattery or the very positive response. But I guess there is a couple of angles where things come together from IT automation and AI point of view as well, aren't there? Because we've talked a lot
Hmm.
about that analytical behavior and the decision making process, but there's also that usage of helping you to build good run books in the first place.
Right.
Have you got any thoughts on that? How does that the kind of the tooling aspect of it does that?
Well, the you hear all over the place nowadays where programmers are using AI to generate code constantly, or they're
Hmm.
reusing, code, and it's finding code out there and adapting it to what they need. And you hear some stories where it works and some stories where it doesn't. But I think
Some
it's a
of it's
starting
scary, isn't
point.
it?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
starting point that may help. In which case, if you're using AI and it goes out and it's finding the best practices to give you, and you can identify those by either trusting a particular author or a particular vendor
Hmm.
or something of those natures, then you can start to say, okay, these are trust. I have faith in these because I've worked with them. It's like I bought this manufacturer of car forever, and I trust them. They're reliable. They're this. They're that because I know them. Versus, I've never heard of X Y Z. You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
you have to start to identify what's the source of this, and I think that's where that's going to come in and come into play with back with the guardrails.
Right. So the trust element again,
Hmm.
the guardrails are part of the answer to that. That actually you separating out the build part, the tooling from
Hmm.
the analysis and the decision making, and the automation gives you that consistency in the middle.
Yep.
So there's always a human, if you like, as or yeah, there's a human involvement, just as you might do with a security process. You'd divide the trust amongst different groups. The person that deploys the patches is not allowed to develop the patches, for example. It
Right.
has to go through QA, which is another third party. And automation allows you to put some of those restrictions on the AI. So AI is allowed to run a process, a run book, a script, or something which has been produced.
Hmm.
And AI might be involved in developing that and the decision making, but not at the same time. It's not just saying,
Right.
yeah, go and run some code. What does the code do? I don't know. It was just, I had this vague idea for a prompt and I let it go off and run amok and that kind
Right.
of thing. Is that you said faith? You said faith and trust were the two words that I picked out in your first
Hmm.
statement, and I think those are really great terms to have in your mind as you're on this. What do I want to let it do? How much can
Right.
I trust it to do today? And the goalposts will move, won't they? That's kind of, you said, the
Exactly.
exponential growth, but
Mm.
having a having a switch, a control, or some. I'm just yeah, guardrails the only word that I can come up with now. But yeah,
Well,
I'm gonna ask. I'm just gonna ask an AI. What is another word for a guardrail?
and da, 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 da. you know,
Yeah, no, I didn't. Sorry, I was.
I'm just but it's like one of those questions, and depending on
Mhm.
where you're coming from, it could be a variety of things. But
It's
that's kind of
bumpers.
where,
It's bumpers, isn't it? It's
yeah,
if you're rolling a ball down towards the pins, having those bumpers on the side so it doesn't drop
hmm
into the gutter, or a
yeah,
sacrificial a canary in the room,
right,
something that
right.
tells you when it's oh wait, something's going wrong.
But it's with anything. When to me, it's like AI needs to be trained.
Yeah,
It needs to be trained for what you're looking for it to do. And during that training
right.
process, just like any individual, it's going to require constant monitoring and constant effort to make sure that it's, looking at the right information.
Feels like we've gone full circle there. So again,
Exactly.
back to that beginning point of using AI to gather the data. It's not. Sorry, did I say AI to gather the data? I meant automation. Using the automation that you've built or may already have, or looking at building, helps at the start of the circle of life for the data. It feeds it into the AI, and you get quality
hmm
data going in, and that improves the training. And then it feels like another one of those loops that goes on and on and on, always
Exactly.
improving, hopefully.
Exactly. So, I know that we've been kind of going on a little bit, and we should probably not take up too much more people's time for today, but any last thoughts that you have about this subject that you think we've missed as far as just how we've gotten into this and where our approach is coming from?
Um, no, only that you said at the start that you'd put together some blogs, and those blogs do go into more detail. They're available on the Kelverion website.
Correct.
Um,
If anybody just
but
goes and does a search for AI, they'll see our blogs listed.
let's search for AI on the Kelverion website, I assume.
Yeah, exactly. Very true, very
Excellent.
true. Once again, we've got to put those specific criteria in. We don't
Oh yeah,
filter it.
the context matters absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely want to say thank you for joining me today. This has been, a fun journey that we're on, and you and I always seem to come up with interesting topics and approaches to things, and somehow meet in the middle in the end, which is a
Well,
great way to,
we,
to have a relationship, I think, as
the
far as
starting points
working
are
and, yeah,
the starting
and,
points are generally very very different, aren't they? But yeah, I think we do find
but
uh,
it makes it successful in the end, which I think is amazing. And, with that, I think we've given people a good idea of why we're addressing this topic and some room to think about what we might be, coming up with in the next conversations. Like I said, this is definitely going to be an ongoing discussion. So I'm looking forward to speaking with you again and continuing to explain what we've learned and how quickly things are changing and what's coming next, what we need to do to prepare for the next phase, and how we can
excellent.
make the best use of all the tools that are out there.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Jamie.
Right. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thank you. Thank you for joining us at Kelverion Talks. If you're interested in IT automation or want more information on how we can help you, remember you can always reach us via email at info@kelverion.com or on our website at kelverion.com. If you like what we're doing here, please like, share, comment, and subscribe.